Welcome back with a smiling face. Links to previous episodes are given in the video description, so don't forget to like, subscribe and share the video. Moonbound Silence. Episode 18, last episode. Chapter 94 to end. Megan's POV. After that horrible out-of-body experience, Jasper and I couldn't go back to sleep, so we ended up staying up the rest of the morning. I was terrified, and something told me that the vampire was coming. We were just laying down in bed the entire morning with each other. Jasper. Yes, Tink. I can't help but think the vampire is coming, and he's coming soon. It's just your nerves. No, it's not. It's my gut. He went after a human and turned her. He's in town, and he's going to be looking for me, or in this case, Saren, and get the inkling that he's coming tonight. Jasper sat up and looked at me like I was crazy. Don't look at me like that, Jasper. Sam is almost 3 months old, and he looked to be about that age in my premonition. But that hasn't come true. It's not supposed to, at least not the exact version of it. I just can't help but feel the evil in the air. I think we should be prepared. Tink, you're just tired from lack of sleep and the crazy ordeal you just went through. No, Jasper. I shouted at him. I am telling you, he's coming, and I think he's coming tonight. Jasper let out a deep sigh and I pleaded with my eyes. Okay, if you're that worried, I'll have my mom take Sam somewhere safe, and I will triple the patrols starting at sundown. Thank you, he kissed my forehead, and I watched his eyes cloud over. A few minutes later, Grace came in and took Sam with no questions asked. She just gave us a reassuring look telling us that she would protect him with her life. After Sam was secure with Grace, Jasper and I got up and called everyone to his office. Jasper spared no details and told everyone what has been going on since day one with my clone, including Ronan, who was not happy at all. No one was happy, but there was nothing we could do about it now. In addition to telling everyone about the Saren clone, we also told everyone about the human version of Megan and what I had experienced the night before, and why I believe that the vampire is nearby. We got it, Jasper, Kendrick said. Yeah, I'll let my dad know to beef up security, Jason replied. Melody, Pumpkin, call your mother and you go with her. Michelle, you as well, Ronan said. If the vampire is coming, then I highly doubt he is coming alone. We need to get all of the safe rooms in the castle ready, tell pack members to get their personal bunkers ready as well, and let the pack know that everyone who is not battle-trained to hide away starting at sundown. What are we going to tell the pack members? Angelo asked. We're going to tell them it's a drill, to be safe. To make sure everyone is up to par with safety precautions. Since we haven't had a rogue attack in almost a year, I don't think anyone has been having drills. This is a good time to have one and tell them that they must remain hidden until sunup the next morning, Ronan responded. Kendrick, Keaton, and Angelo, you three give out the orders for the drill. Since it's still early in the morning, this gives the pack plenty of time to prepare and execute at sundown, Jasper told them. All three of them nodded and left the office. Milan, find several of the other strong female fighters and use them as decoys against the vampires. If he does come with reinforcements, it's highly plausible he will try and take hostages to force Saren's hand, or even Megan's at that, Ronan told her. You got it, Uncle Ronan. I know a few that are trained vampire slayers, she replied and left. I need to go speak with Dylan and we will work with Felix to get the border patrol secure, Ronan said and also took his leave. Irene, you go to the hospital and make sure that Dr. Andrews has everything he will need to treat vampire bites and injuries just in case, I tell her, and she nods her head. Everyone has now left the office, only leaving me and Jasper. Do you feel better now that we have plans in place? He asked me while making me sit on his lap. I nodded my head. And just when I thought we could get some relaxing alone time, the door to his office flew open, and in came my clone. Jasper, what the hell? She shouted. Saren, please, not now, he said to her, rubbing his temple. I thought we were past all of this. I thought we were fixing us. Saren, I told you, there is no more us. I'm sorry, but my life is with Megan and our son. I saw the tears in her eyes. Even though she was a clone, her feelings were real, and I could feel them as if they were my own. I knew what she was feeling, because, at one time, I was her, fighting for my bond with Jasper. Why? Why can't it work between us? She asked softly. Because we both made a choice. Yes, my memories of us are gone, and yes, I made a choice to sleep with Megan before you left, but the fact of the matter is, you also made a choice, and you left. You can't leave for almost 8 months, and then come back because you heard a rumor that I found a new Luna and come back expecting things to go back to the way they were, he said to her. What was crazy about him saying this, was that he meant every word of it, at least to her. I knew for a fact that he would never say that to me, the real Saren, because it's not how he feels deep down. But it's what he has to play in order for the clone not to do something stupid. I know that, and I regret it, she answered with tears dropping from her eyes. I felt her regret because it was my regret. I regretted rejecting Jasper and leaving the pack. But doing so also helped Jasper and I grow stronger. I felt horrible for my clone because even though she wasn't a real person, she still had real feelings, and those feelings I knew all too well. Saren, I need you to put aside your feelings and regret, and get ready, Jasper tells her. Get ready for what? Lorenzo contact me, and he feels that Alessandro may be on his way. Oh God, she immediately stopped crying. Don't worry and don't panic. You've trained for this. You're more than capable of protecting yourself, and this pack if he is to come. Remember, he's ranked vampire according to history and there's no telling how many of his kind he will bring when he comes for you. She nodded her head and took a deep breath to calm herself. We may no longer be mates, Saren, but I mean it when I say that I don't want to lose you. Not only because of what the legend entails would happen, but because I do love you. I always will. We just can't be together, she sobbed. Jasper shook his head and I hung mine in regret. I hated hurting my clone, but the fact of the matter is that once all this over with, Svetlana will more than likely dispose of her. She turned to leave but stopped a moment. For what it's worth, Jasper, I am sorry. I know you are, dearest, and I am too, Jasper said with the utmost sincerity. If I weren't the real Saren, and she wasn't my clone, I would almost be a little jealous of how sincere he was being with her. She nodded her head and left his office. As soon as the door closed fully, we both let out a sigh. You should win an award, I tell him, and he looks at me lifting his brow. You make everything so believable. It's because I'm being 100% honest. I'm trying to see it from the fact that you are Megan, and she is Saren. That way, my feelings are wholehearted, and I am being truthful to everyone. Wait, are you saying that if I wasn't the real Saren, and that I was actually my clone, and you had a child with another, you would actually accept the rejection and leave me? Yes, because I would have had a child with another. Had I had the affair, and no child, then I would take you back in half a second flat. There would be no doubt in my mind I would take you back and make you Luna again, but that's not what happened in this case. Wow, I was stunned and completely speechless at his honesty. Tink, you're an alpha by blood, and you know how our laws work. Had my mistress actually had my heir, I would have to make her Luna and take her as a chosen mate. What if this had happened before you came to Blood Moon and found me? I would have had to have rejected you, he said honestly. My eyes widened in shock. But, you didn't believe in that when it was happening with Keaton. Keaton's case was different. Even though he is a beta's son, he really has no official rank. I'm the alpha, and had I gotten another woman pregnant, and she gave birth to a son, then I would have to obey our laws, and reject my mate and take my mistress as my Luna. What if your mistress had a girl? Then, we would work something out, and I could keep my mate, but it would be difficult. I would have to do the co-parenting thing and pray that my mate and my mistress got along, but that would have been highly unlikely. So, we're lucky that things happened the way they did, is what you're saying. Lucky? No. Fortunate? Yes. When I didn't have my memories, the same day I harmed you, Kendrick told me not to sleep with anyone. He did. He did. At first, I was annoyed, but he told me that if I cared about my pack, I would keep it in my pants. Yes, IFL, rude, but I heeded Kendrick's word. I never slept with anyone in those 3 weeks, and especially after your rejection, I nodded and made a face of contentment. Tink, even though you and I have been through a lot, you more than me, I truly believe everything has happened for a reason. No matter the consequences or rewards, we made choices in our lives, and some are made for us, but the outcomes happen for whatever reasons they're supposed to. Even my decision to create the clone. Your decision to come up with this disguise. Every choice we make has a specific contribution to our lives, and we have to live by those choices. You sound like a monk. Pwahaha. Do you even know what a monk is? He asked me. Of course, I do. I read. Then you would know that monks are celibate and 95% of them are virgins up until the day they die. With the amount of ex you and I have, I'm the furthest thing from a monk, I scoffed and laughed with him. He held me close and kissed my neck. Jasper, do you think once I go back to being me again, things will go back to the way they were before all of the drama? I asked him with a serious tone. No, they won't, he answered right away. I looked at him and frowned. I think they're going to be better, I smiled and leaned against him. I love you, Tink. I love you too, Prince Charming. We both laughed because he hates it when I call him that out loud. Alessandro's POV. The sun was setting, and I knew the time to retrieve my primordial bride was drawing near. I stared at the clock, just waiting for the sun to fully set and the darkness of night to take over. Master. What is it, Edger? Your army of undead are awaiting your orders. How many? 20 captains along with 2 of their co-captains each are here. So, a total of 60. Yes, Master, is that not enough? Shall I send for more? No, we can't have too many of our kind in human territory. They will slaughter the humans, and that will be a risk for exposure. Yes, Master, he paused a minute. Master, what about your new pet? What shall I do with her while you are out retrieving your bride? Diana will come with me. She needs to learn how to fend for herself, and to kill those filthy mutts. I am also hoping her presence will make the primordial jealous. I see, very well, sir. We will leave in 1 hour, Edger, send for the troops, and have them meet me at the border of the Blue Lake Pack. Make sure that they feed on animals only. Understood. He backed away and left my side. I took a deep breath and went back into the bedroom where Diana was curled up on the floor in the corner. Diana, you need to feed. Off. Why are you so difficult? Every other human I have turned has accepted their life of immortality and flourished within a few hours of their turn, yet you have been huddled in the corner for the last 10 hours. I didn't ask for this. You killed my unborn baby. I can always give you another. I would go near you with a 10-foot pole. I would rather die than ever conceive your demon spawn. I'm not a demon, I am a vampire. What? I'm not a demon, I'm a... I heard you. Why are you correcting me on what species you are? Because demons are a different species. Wait, are you saying demons are real? Yes, very. Her mouth dropped, and she started to manically. It was actually creepy the way she was laughing. Demons are real? Next, you're going to tell me that werewolves and witches exist too? I didn't answer and just stood there staring at her. No, she said in shock. Diana, the supernatural world is filled with things humans have only seen or heard of in books and movies, but I can assure you, that everything you have grown to believe to be fiction, is in fact very real. Oh my God, she shouted and jumped to her feet. She immediately lunged at me and knocked me on the ground. I landed on my back and she was straddling me. She punched me several times across the face before I caught both of her arms and hissed at her. IFL, PPDR position and pinned her on the ground. She started to trash and hiss back. Her eyes turned an ice blue as her vampire side started to take over. She was strong, I had to give her that. And it didn't help that she was a newborn and probably thirsty. Enough. I commanded her, but she wouldn't stop. She was fighting my command. Diana. Stop this foolishness. You can't beat me. Just watch me. She broke on arm free and socked me across the face again, making me fall over. She got back on top, punched me several more times, but the next thing I knew, she stopped her fist and instead crashed her LPS to my neck. I felt her fangs elongate as she pierced my jugular and started to feed on me. She was in a feeding frenzy, and then I felt her bite down even harder, and immediately my member started to harden. She was marking me, I had to stop her before she completed the bite. Diana, stop, but instead of stopping, she bit down harder. No. I shouted and I tried to break her grasp, but I couldn't. I was getting weaker as her bite became stronger. Diana. I roared and pushed her off of me. She landed on the bed and she was panting. Then I felt it. Her heartbeat and my heartbeat, beating as one. What have you done? I screamed at her. She smirked and then shimmered out of the room in a puff of white smoke. When did she learn to shimmer? I felt her reappear behind me, and I turned around only to catch a glimpse of her before she shimmered away again. You're probably wondering where I learned this, she said as she appeared on the bed. While you've been downstairs getting beauty sleep and talking with your minion, I discovered how to do a few things. After getting the hang of moving my body through the air, and staying in the shadows, I went back to the bar I worked at, and I found a few vampires that were willing to teach me a few things. Like how to feed, tap into my vampire, and also, what it means to mark. You did this on purpose. I shouted while pointing at the mark she made on me. I sure did. You said the only way I can die is if you die first, so I decided to reverse the roles. I've marked you, Alessandro. Yes, I know your name now. Do you realize what you have done? I hissed and screamed, lunging for her, only for her to shimmer away and reappear on the other side of the room. Yes, I do. I've basically put up a permanent block on you, and if I die, you die with me because now our hearts beat as one. I was seething in pure rage. I know you've been planning some special kidnapping for a specific werewolf. All vampires apparently know of this legend. So, I thought, what would be the best way to ruin your plans? And that's when my new vampy friends told me what would happen when a male vampire is marked by a female. Think of this as karma for stealing my life and killing my unborn baby, she said with unadulterated hatred. You! I screamed and lunged for her. I wouldn't do that if I were you, she said, and I stopped dead in my tracks. Remember, if I die, you die, she smirked in her victory. I think this when the saying, killing two birds with one stone comes into play. Not only will you not be able to get it up for anyone other than me, but you can't kill me either. Before I could say anything, she shimmered out of the room. I had no idea where she went, but I didn't care. Egor, he appeared almost instantly. Master! Find me a dark witch to get rid of this, I said, pointing the mark Diana gave me. Master, what? Don't ask questions. Just do it. Yes, Master, he shimmered out. There was no time to waste. I need to get the primordial tonight, and once Edgar finds a dark witch to help get rid of Diana's mark, I will kill her, and I will impregnate Saren. This is only a roadblock in my plan. They are not ruined. Not by a long shot. Chapter 95. Edgar's POV. What do you mean you can't find a dark witch, my uncle, or as I call him, my master screamed at me. I've spent 2 hours looking for any dark witches to potentially help him rid him of the mark that his pet gave him, but they were scarce, and those that I could find were not willing. It appears that my master's name no longer struck fear into the dark Wiccan kind. Was I going to tell him the last part? Absolutely not. I'm sorry, Master, but they are scarce, and I was unable to find one in the timeline you gave me, I answered with my head down. I don't have time for this, we need to get to the primordial tonight, he hissed at me. Millennia with this madman, and I still couldn't find it in me to kill him myself. He was family after all, and he has taken care of me, somewhat. Master, we can always take the time to find a dark witch after you capture the primordial, I suggested respectfully. Why can't you do anything right? He screamed and slammed the door in my face. I straightened myself and scowled at the door. It was barely 9 p.m. and he was already grumpy. I don't know how the hell you put up with him. I turned around to see my master's latest toy sitting leaning against the entry of the hall. This is your fault, you know, you just had to go and mark him, I sneer at her. He's the one who decided to take my life from me. I never asked to be inged and then turned into a vampire. I just wanted to be inged. I was happy as a human and getting ready to raise my child. This is karma at its finest, she said, shrugging a shoulder. I can't believe you figured out how to shimmer on your own. Oh, is that what the floating in midair thing is called? She asked, and I nodded my head. What can I say, I'm efficient, she said snobbishly. I was going to say something when the door swung open and my master came out. Where are the troops? Awaiting for you in the clearing outside of the Blue Lake territory, I answered with my head down. Let's go. Yes, Master. Diana, you will come with us. And if I don't, she replied with the utmost attitude. It's not like you can kill me, I shook my head at her defiance. It was no wonder her baby daddy, as humans like to call them, didn't want to be with her. She was untamed, but then again, all humans are. Diana, do not test me. Just because I can't kill you does not mean I won't punish you, and believe me, I will have great pleasure in doing so. My master's pet scowled at him and crossed her arms. Edgar, my master shouted at me, making me flinch. Why are you just standing there? Go to the troops and get them ready. Yes, master, I bowed my head and shimmered to the outskirts of the Blue Lake Pack just over the mountains. When I got there, there were 60 vampires of my master's army waiting for his instructions. Edgar, where is the general? One of the captains asked. Dealing with his new pet. The one who marked him, another captain asked. How did you know about that? I was stunned that his army knew, especially since it only happened a few hours ago. Does General Alessandro really think he can keep that a secret? His new pet was shimmering all over the city announcing that she marked her creator, one of the co-captains replied. I slapped my forehead at that news. Do not say anything to him when he arrives. He is very sensitive about it, I tell them. They all give me disapproving looks and just look at one another questionably. A minute later, my master arrived with his new pet, and we all bowed. You all know why you are here, he said to everyone. Tonight is the night. The primordial is here, and from what I have been able to sense, she is very powerful. Our kind will live on, as my heir paves the way for vampires of my bloodline. That includes those of you standing before me whom I have turned myself, he announces, and everyone bows their head. We keep a low profile by maintaining our silence so that the wolves cannot sense us. General Alessandro, we are at your disposal, what is the plan? One of the captains asks. We will infiltrate the Blue Lake Pack. Kill any wolves that retaliate and take women and pups hostage if you must. Do not attack this one, he says and holds up the picture of the primordial. She is the target, and if you go up against her alone, you will surely be turned into ash. Everyone bows and all of their eyes turn ice blue, while my master's eyes turn red. The time was finally here, the time that my master gets his hands on the coveted female primordial. Alessandro's POV. After telling my army of the plan, I turned and looked at the Blue Lake territory. Beyond the mountains was the pack that held over 800 werewolves, and the special young wolf that will fulfill my wild dreams and bring forth the most powerful hybrid that will ever exist. Ready? I ask my army, and they all smirk, and one by one they shimmer away down to the pack. It wasn't long before an alarm sounded, and the sound of wolves howling and shouting from my army filled the night. I, along with Edgar and Diana, watched from above in the mountains as an all-out war began. There were definitely more wolves than vampires, but one bite of vampire venom would easily kill a werewolf. That, and of course my army was equipped with guns with silver nitrate bullets and knives and swords made of pure silver. Edgar, let's go, he bowed his head and shimmered. Diana, stay close to me, if you die, we all die, I hissed at her. I grab her wrist and shimmer down to the field where the battle is taking place. As soon as I landed, I grabbed a wolf by its neck and snapped it in half. Diana stayed by my side closely. You and your obsession are going to get all of us killed, she shouted at me. I ignored her as two more wolves flanked me and came charging at once. I grabbed Diana and shimmered away just in time for them to collide into one another and become disoriented. With their minds boggled, I sunk my fangs into one, injecting with my venom, and ripped out the heart of the other. Diana! Don't just stand there! Do something! I shout at her. Like what? Kill someone! This your fight! Not mine! She shouted and shimmered away. I didn't have time to think about where the hell she just went off to. There were more wolves than I expected. It was almost as if they were expecting us to attack again. Master! We're outnumbered, Edgar said as he shimmered in front of me. We need more, he shouted. Then go get more, I shouted at him. He shimmered away, as I kept on fighting. Within a few minutes, more wolves started to howl as they were coming at us from all sides, but thankfully, more of my army of undead arrived, and now we were evenly matched. Growls, roars, and snarls could be heard all around, and I killed at least half a dozen wolves on my own in the first 15 minutes of this battle. Just when I thought we're gaining the upper hand, I started to hear screams from my army. I turned around, and there was a massive fire engulfing at least 24 of my men and women. You four! I shout at a few surviving captains, find the primordial, I commanded. They bowed their heads and shimmered away into what I presumed was the castle of Blue Lake to find her. I had a feeling that she was using her powers from the inside. That fire was no ordinary fire. Just as they disappeared, I felt a force so strong that I was sent flying into the air. I shimmered midair to prevent myself from landing face first into the ground and landed back on my feet. In front of me was a large black wolf. A very large black wolf. He was snarling at me, slobber falling from all corners of its mouth. You must be Alpha Valencia, the wolf snarled again, and then I watched as he started to transform back to his human self. And you must be Alessandro, two-time loser, he replied. You can't protect her forever. I will have her. She belongs to me. I hiss at him. Stay away from her, he roared. I will have what I want. I roared back. It has been written since the beginning of time that I will breed with a primordial, and she will give me an heir so powerful, only hybrids of our union will reign supreme in this world. You're going to have to go through me to get to Saren. I don't have to, I hiss. I already have men and women inside of your castle walls searching for her. His eyes widened, and I watched as they clouded over. I took the opportunity to attack him. He tumbled and rolled, and I landed on top. I gave the alpha several blows to the face, but just as I going to give another, I was knocked off by another force. After stumbling, I got to my feet, but could not see where the force was coming from. The wolves had help, and this wasn't from the primordial. This was a witch, or perhaps a strong wizard. My split second of contemplation left an opening for the alpha as he shifted into his wolf again and charged at me. I shimmered just before he made contact, but before I could gain my footing, another force hit me, and it was different again. I clearly underestimated the number of allies this pack had. But I was too close to give up now. I heard the alpha snarl and felt the ground behind me shake as he charged again. I dodged last second, but not by enough. His claws got me, and my upper arm was severely injured. He got back to his feet and we stared each other down. We both roared at each other, and just as we were about to charge at one another, there was a high-pitched scream. Jasper, we both stopped and looked off towards the scream, and the sight before us made the alpha growl and I smiled in content. Finally, things were starting to work in my favor. My men had several hostages in their grasps, and one of them was exactly who I was hoping for. As I said, I will have what I want, I tell the alpha. He turns back to me and snarls. He takes a stance to attack, but I stop him. If you attack, my men will kill the hostages. He stops mid-track and snarls his teeth. Shift back, Alpha, and let's talk. He hesitates for a moment, but finally I hear his bones cracking as he shifts back into his human form again. I see you're not as stupid as you look, Let her go, he grits his teeth at me. Now, why would I do that? She's the reason why I came here. She's the reason for my very existence, and now that I have her, why would I let her go? I rubbed in his face. Jasper, please, do something, she begged. Yes, Alpha, try and do something, I mocked. Saren, fate is fate. You were always meant to be mine, and now, nothing is going to stop me from having you. Please, Jasper, you promised, she cried. Alpha, 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 you should know better than to make promises you can't keep, I mocked again, making him seethe in anger. Don't be upset, Alpha. This is just how it's supposed to be. Just like Ileana, and Adrianka, the other two females that died at my hands. Mates are just a temporary roadblock. They're not meant to last. Your bond with Saren was broken before it even began. I understand that her family was killed when she was a young mutt, and then she became a slave. Though you may have found her and accepted her, the truth of the matter is, females of her kind are never meant to be with their mates. The powers that be created her for me, and me alone. Things were looking absolutely glorious. I finally had my bride in my grasp, and the Alpha before me, like every other male wolf that came before him, was completely helpless to come to her aid. Bring her to me, I commanded the two captains that held her. I'm surprised she didn't kill you too. We caught her by surprise, and we threatened her with the lives of the other hostages, one of them answered. Ah, just like a Luna to put the lives of her pack before her own. I'm betting that you thought you could stall and hope that your Alpha would kill me. She had tears in her eyes, and she scowled at me. Oh, so much attitude, I mocked. Do not worry, my bride, that attitude will soon change when I get you back to my labyrinth. I'm not going anywhere with you, she shouted and tries to break the grip of the captains. Defy me, and I kill one of the hostages, I hiss at her, making her stop cold. I didn't think so, I say and smirk. General, what shall we do with her? Shimmer her back to my labyrinth, they both bow, and shimmer away. No. The Alpha lunged to stop them, but I caught him by the throat. Alpha, the wolves shouted. As much as I would love to kill you, Alpha, if I harm you, then Saren dies as well, and I can't have that. So, today is your lucky day, I throw him with all my might across the field and he hits the trunk of a tree. General, what about the hostages? A co-captain asked. Bring them with us, we could use them to leverage the primordial from using her powers, they bowed, and they shimmered away. Milan, one of the male wolves shouted. Egor. Yes, master. Where is Diana? I'm right here, don't get your panties all up in a wad, she snarked. Keep up your attitude, Diana, and I will punish you, I hiss at her and grab the back of her neck. I would think that you would be thanking me since I'm the one who found the girl first. Your goons just showed up and stole my thunder. Well, if that's true, then maybe I'll reward you. No thanks, she scowled. Now that you've done your bidding, can I go and live the afterlife? After what you did to me, not a chance, I say and grab her arm. You are mine until I say you can go, I grab her shoulders tight, and get into her face. And you can only go when you're dead. If I die, you die too, remember. Oh, just you wait and see, my little pet, I grab her wrist tight and look back at the Alpha. You lose, Alpha Valencia. You all lose. I shout at the wolves and laugh maniacally. Very soon all of you will cease to exist. I laugh even more. My eyes shine bright red and I take my leave with Diana in tow, and I feel the survivors of my army follow suit. I finally had her. Now all I need was a dark witch to get rid of Diana's mark, as soon as possible. Then in due time, I will impregnate the primordial and destiny will take its course. Chapter 96. Jasper's POV. After Alessandro disappeared with all of the hostages, and I knew for a fact that he was gone, I stood to my feet and Jason and Kendrick came to me. Jasper, are you okay? That looked like it hurt. Kendrick said to me. I'm good, he's not as strong as Saren or Lorenzo, I answered. Jason, are you good? I'm good, Milan can take care of herself. The other hostages were the trained vampire slayers she talked about earlier. How did she find 5 slayers in such a short period amount of time? Kendrick asked him. 2 are girls she trains with on the regular, the other 3 are technically retired because they had pups, but they were gladly willing to come out of retirement to help the pack, Jason replied. Kendrick and I both nodded and let out a deep breath. Ken, Jace, go around and find out how many we lost, they nodded their heads and went. I looked around from where I was standing and saw the damage this battle cost us. The flames from Saren's fire attack was still sizzling in the field where over 24 vampire bodies were burning. Alpha, I turned to my left to see William and Olivia. What are you two doing here? I asked them. We came to keep an eye out on Megan, William answered. I guess we made the right decision, I was going to respond when someone else joined us. Stefan. Hello, Alpha, he replied with a heavy Russian accent. Svetlana. Olivia exclaimed after hearing it. Hello Olivia, Lorenzo, he said with a smile. So, this is where you went, Olivia said picking at Svetlana's new manly disguise. Yes, well, after Alessandro K.L.L.E.D. my clone, I needed him to continue thinking he K.L.L.E.D. me, he answered. Speaking of clones, it appears that the vampire has gotten the clone of Saren, and we saw Megan's doppelganger as well, William said. That wasn't her doppelganger, we heard a voice. They turned around while I looked past them. All of our mouths dropped when we saw Megan. Megan! I said to her and she just smiled. Then she shimmered in a white cloud for a second and came right back. Wait, you're not Megan. No, I'm not. My name is Diana, she replied. You must be the human that Alessandro turned last night, Olivia said. How did you know it was last night? Diana asked with a confused look on her face. We can explain that later, but first, you need to explain why I shouldn't K.L.L.U., I tell her. Because I'm here to help, she replied. I lifted a brow, but I watched as her eyes glazed downward. She smirked and raised her own brows. I followed her eyes and realized that I was still ached. I quickly covered myself. Why did you have to do that? I was enjoying the view, she whined. Alessandro's DCK definitely doesn't compare to the jackhammer I just saw, she teased. Olivia, will you please? I begged her. She smiled and conjured up a pair of shots for me. What? Diana exclaimed. Are you a witch? I am. I am as well, Stefan said and quickly changed back into Svetlana. I'm a dark witch, while Olivia here is a light witch. And what are you? A demon? Diana asked William. No, I am not a demon. I'm a werewolf as well, he replied. Diana, explain to us how you can help, I tell her trying to get back at the situation at hand. Well, you're probably wondering why I'm standing here in front of you, and not Megan, We all nodded. Well, it goes like this. Diana's flashback from her P.O.V. During the fight, Alessandro wanted me to start killing the werewolves, but this was his fight and not mine, so I decided to shimmer away and landed inside of the castle. I was hoping I could get someone to kill me so that it would put an end to all of the madness going on outside, but as I walked through the castle, I realized that there were very few people inside. I found myself going up the stairs, and something compelled me to go to the 5th floor. I checked every door, and they were all locked, except for one. When I opened the door, what I saw was an office, and someone standing by the window. It was a girl, and the moment she turned around to face me, I swear I thought I was going to SHT myself. What? I exclaimed. The girl standing before me looked exactly like me. She and I could pass for identical twins. I've been waiting for you, she said to me. What? What do you mean you've been waiting for me? Sit down, we need to talk. I hesitated for a minute, but she gave me a smile and sat down behind the desk. I followed suit and just stared at her. I mean, I've heard of having doppelgangers, but never assumed one would exist for me and look like something out of a scene from The Parent Trap. My name is Megan. Diana, I replied. Diana, you're probably freaking out because we look alike. I think freaking out is an understatement. Right, well, unfortunately, I don't have a lot of time to explain what's going on. So, long story short, I'm not who you think I am, and I think we can help each other. What? Diana, I know you were human up until last night, and I know that you didn't want to become a vampire. How? How I know this isn't important, but what I need you to know is that we're on the same side. We both want Alessandro dead. If that's the case, then kill me, I tell her. Why? Because killing you would automatically kill him because you marked him. Wait, how did you? Again, how isn't important? I'm not going to kill you, Diana, because you don't deserve to die. You're an innocent bystander in all of this, caught up in the middle of a war that has nothing to do with you. But, given that we look exactly the same, I think we can use that to our advantage. What do you mean? I know where the primordial is, and I need her help in order to get rid of Alessandro once and for all, but I also need yours. I thought about what she was saying. Even though her knowing SHT that I never once said was freaking me out, she was right about one thing. I wanted Alessandro dead and hoping that I didn't have to go in order for him to go. What do you need me to do? Switch clothes with me. What? Did I stutter? She asked in return. She stood up and started to take off her clothes. Come on, we don't have time to waste, she said, hurrying me along. I followed her lead and started to take off my clothes. In a matter of seconds, we had switched clothing, and it was like we had immediately switched lives at the same time. Diana, from here on out, you need to respond to Megan. When the time is right, I need you to go find Jasper, my mate and the alpha of this pack, and tell him what's going on. Though, I'm sure he will be able to sense what's going on when I get outside. Megan, I don't understand. From now on, I'm going to be you, and I will leave with Alessandro. But he's here for a blonde girl named Saren. I know he is, and I know where she's hiding right now. You're going to pretend to catch her for him, and then trick him into taking both of you. Not just the two of us, she said and lifted her brows. There's only one problem with your plan, I tell her. What's that? That mark on your neck, it's different from mine, she quickly Pped her hair over it and smiled at the simple fix. Stay here. Only come out when the time is right, she says as she moves towards the door. How will I know? You'll know, believe me, I nodded my head without even thinking. She winked and then walked out of the office. I peeked my head out and saw her go into a guest room, and as soon as the door opened, I saw her talking to someone. The next thing I knew, I saw the blonde girl come out and follow Megan down the hall, but as soon as they did, Alessandro's men cornered them with hostages. I watched as Megan double-crossed Saren and acted as if she was me. Saren was captured and they used the hostages as leverage to keep her from fighting back. What was strange was that Saren didn't seem to be affected by Megan. I wonder if she explained to her what was going on? I had no idea. When they were out of sight, I closed the door to the office and ran to the window. I saw that there was a clear vantage point of the field. I watched as the plan began to unfold. End of flashback. End of Diana's P.O.V. We all looked at her in a daze. When did Megan come up with this plan? How did she get Saren involved and prevent from her fighting back? I knew the moment she stepped out that Megan was the one that went with Alessandro, but the fact that he couldn't tell the difference was a little scary and strange at the same time. Wait, did you say you marked Alessandro? William asked her. I did. And he's the one who turned you? Yes. Diana, you do realize that if he's KLLED, you go too. I know. That dawned on me after Megan told me her plan. If I die, he dies, but if he dies, then I die because he turned me, she said with a low voice. Are you okay with that? Olivia asked. Honestly, no, but I don't have a choice. I don't know what his deal with the blonde is, but I know that whatever it is can't be good. I've heard him say over and over something about his heir and how his bloodline will reign supreme in the world, and honestly, one crazy vampire is enough. The world doesn't need an entire flock of Alessandros flying around wreaking havoc on the world, Diana replied. Okay, well that we know what's happening with Saren and Megan, let's figure out how to move forward. There's not much we can do right now other than tending to the wounded and honor the dead, I tell everyone. Diana, since you're going to be acting in Megan's place, but all of the werewolves will know immediately that you're a vampire, so we're going to have Olivia mask your scent until Megan returns, I tell her. What if she doesn't return? What if whatever her plan is fails? She asked me. It's just as Megan said to you before you two switched places, she's not who you think she is, I tell her, and she just cd'd her head and furrowed her brows. She and I will explain when she returns, but for now, Olivia, please mask Diana's scent. Olivia nodded and quickly her spell. I not only had masked Diana's vampire scent but had her replace it with Megan's. I explained to Diana my relationship with Megan, and of course, she gagged. But in order to keep up appearances until everything worked out the way it needed to, she and I were going to fake it until we made it. Megan's POV. After Alessandro grabbed me and shimmered me to goddess only knows where, I found myself in a dungeon or cage of some sort, and I saw that Milan, the other hostages, and Saren were with me. Welcome to your new home, ladies, Alessandro said to us as he started to chain Milan, the other hostages, and me to the wall. The chains weren't even silver for me. Maybe it was because he didn't realize who I really was. That was a good thing for all of us. Please, please don't this, Saren begged as the vampires dragged her up the stairs away from us. Saren, if you can hear my thoughts, I need you to keep calm and remember what I told you. General, what are going to do with them? One of the other vampires still down in the dungeon with us asked. Keep them here until I figure out what to do with them. Diana is not to be harmed. Yes, sir, Alessandro smirked, and all of the vampires shimmered out. After they were gone, I concentrated on my surroundings and found that it was only us in the dungeon. Megan, why is he calling you Diana? Milan asked. That's the name of the doppelganger, I tell her. The others with her make funny faces at me. Don't ask, it's not important, I tell them and wave them off. What is important is that I'm not chained with silver, I can easily break this, I whispered. We need to get to him before he mates with her, Milan said. He can't, I answered, and they all looked at me. Diana marked him. What does that have to do with anything? One of the hostages asked. Mia, right? I asked and she nodded. My understanding from what I've learned about vampires is that if they've been marked, they can't mate with anyone other than the one who marked them, I answered, and all of the mouths dropped. If only that worked on our kind, one of the other hostages said. Really, Holly? Milan snapped. What? Holly replied, shrugging her shoulders. Back on topic, I said to them and quickly broke the chains. Nice, Milan said. I went over and checked to see if I could break their chains, and with a little extra force, and some burns to my hands, I was able to break the silver chains holding them. I looked down at my hands and saw myself rapidly healing. What? Mia said, looking at my hands. I will explain later, but right now, we need to get out of here, I tell them, and they all nod. Milan, you give the order, and I'm going to track down Alessandro and Saren, I tell her. Alright you guys, you heard the Luna. Mia and Jax, you two are one team, Holly and April, you two are another team, and Alexis, you're with me. They all nodded their heads, and we headed up the stairs. You guys, please, do your best to stay alive. Everyone has someone back home waiting for them, I tell them. They all nod. We all take a deep breath, knowing that once we open this door, it will be a race to the finish to kill as many of the vampires as possible, while I also make my way to find my clone and put an end to the vampire once and for all. Chapter 97. Megan's POV. As soon as we opened the door from inside the dungeon, immediately an alarm sounded, and we knew we were in trouble. No going back now, Milan shouted as she shifted into her wolf. Mia, Jax, Holly, April, and Alexis shifted as well, but I stayed in human form. I wasn't sure if Alessandro knew what Callie looked like, but I couldn't risk anyone seeing a baby blue wolf running through wherever the hell we were. Milan's wolf Ivory and Alexis immediately created a diversion which caught the attention of a good dozen vampires, and the others took off in their own directions in the pairs that Milan had assigned them in. I stayed behind for a while longer until I was for sure that the coast was clear. I watched as all of them ripped the heads off of vampires left and right. Milan was right, these girls were vampire slayers. Once I knew that all of the attention was on them, I made my way through the long hallway of this so-called labyrinth and followed my instincts. I had no idea where I was going, but I knew that I could tap into my clone's thoughts and she could tap into mine. Saren still has no idea that I'm the real version of us, but she does know that I have telepathic powers, and that was something she had to get used to. In her mind, I'm just a blessed wolf, and not what Alessandro is really after. Whatever weird sick twist of fate occurred, I am grateful for it. Diana was turned, and she was pissed off enough to mark Alessandro to keep him from mating with my clone and potentially finding out that she's not real. I don't know how real her body is, but there was just no way we could risk it. I needed to get in contact with her as fast as I could, so I tried to reach via mind reading. Saren, if you can hear my thoughts, tell me where you are. I waited for a few seconds, but nothing. Either she wasn't trying to tap into her powers, or I was too far from her. I turned a corner and came face to face with a vampire. Ah! I shouted and blasted him with a force so strong from a fear response that I ripped his head off. Oh, I gagged and tried to keep myself from throwing up. Even though I just watched Milan and the others do it, I didn't expect to do it myself like that. I watched as his body turned to ash. Hey, I guess they really do turn to kale after they die, I said out loud to myself. I kept on my way, and the further I went the quieter it started to get. I got the feeling that instead of running towards the others, the vampires were shimmering, which meant the labyrinth was being left unattended. I came to a doorway and put my ear to it and heard nothing. I quietly opened it and found that it led to a staircase. It was dark, but candles were lighting the way. I used my power and made a fireball from one of the candles to give me additional light. I increased the size, and I could see all the way up the stairs. There was another door, and I saw some light around the door frame. I climbed the stairs and put out the fire by closing my hand slowly but kept a small flame just in case I needed to burn some vampires that hadn't gone to the fight below me. I cracked open the door, peeked out, and saw that it led to a room. I used my hearing and mind reading to make sure no one was around, and it was all clear. I opened the door and walked out. I realized that I was in some kind of museum or something. I put out the remainder of the flame. The entire walls were covered with drawings, paintings, and portraits. I looked around as I walked into the room and realized that all of the portraits were of Alessandro. I covered my mouth when I got to the very last picture, or should I say first painting of him. I looked at the date and it was dated in the year 1200 AD. I realized then that Alessandro has been alive a lot longer than anyone had anticipated. The stories of him serving Dracula may have been exaggerated. I had the feeling that Dracula served Alessandro. I let that theory sink in for a bit when I heard a voice. Megan, can you hear me? Please, hurry. Saren, I can finally hear your thoughts. Can you hear mine? Yes. Where are you? I'm coming to you, we need to end this before our friends are killed. Where are you? Some room. I'm not sure where. I was shimmered here. Are you alone? No, Alessandro's minion is with me. Saren, try to make some kind of noise so I can. My thoughts were interrupted when I heard footsteps coming in my direction. I quickly hid behind the larger statue in the room. I never thought I would be excited to be on the shorter scale of life. I knew I couldn't stay hidden for long. I waited for whoever it was to pass and heard them go through the door that I just came out of. As soon as the door closed, I went to the door they came in from and quickly made sure it was safe to go. I ran out and looked for any signs of my clone. Callie, can you pick up her scent? No, I can't. Because she was shimmered, her scent won't linger the way it would have had she been walked. I grunted in frustration and was worried I wouldn't be able to find her in time before vampires started to look for me. Suddenly, I heard a loud bang and glass breaking and I knew for a fact that it was her. I knew she would get what I was trying to tell her without having to finish my thought. I mean, we were technically the same person. I went in the direction of the glass shattering, and little by little, I could hear screaming, cursing, and more stuff breaking. I found myself at a staircase and knew that she had to be at the very top. I used my wolf speed and went up the stairs, and sure enough, the cursing and breaking of objects got louder and louder. I went towards the ruckus, and just as I came to a set of double doors, something came flying out of the wall making me duck as fast I could. Please stop. I'm not my master. I heard a guy shouting. I don't care. If I can't kill him then I'll kill you. I heard my clone scream. Ah! I heard the guy yell and then more stuff breaking. The time between objects breaking was so fast that I figured she was using her powers. Saren. That is enough. I heard the voice of the devil himself. Well, speak of the devil, Saren said. Again, same minds, I think to myself. Whatever you and your pack have planned won't be enough, he shouts. I have more than enough vampires to hold off your pack members from coming to rescue you. They might be holding off okay right now, but unlike my army, they will eventually run out of energy, and killing them will be all too easy. I needed to end this fast. If not, then Milan and the others will be sitting ducks. You! Saren shouted. I smirked knowing that I would have said the same thing. All in due time, my bride, but first, I need to take care of something important, he said. I knew he was talking about the mark that Diana gave him. Saren, I'm right outside the room. We need to work together if we're going to kill this bastard once and for all. I say through my thoughts, hoping she can hear me. I looked around at some of the broken objects in the hall and saw several wooden pieces. They weren't pointed enough to be a stake, but I think with enough force, they could penetrate and kill him. Saren, you need to keep him distracted. Get him to drop his guard or use his minion against him. Please, do you honestly think I would ever sleep with you? Jasper and I may not be together anymore, but I will never open my legs for anyone else. I don't care what fate says or what you say because I would rather die than ever mate with you. I'd rather your minion here because at least he's good looking, even though his name is questionable. Who named you anyway? I hope it wasn't your mom because that would mean she had SHTTY taste. Do not mention his mother. Alessandro hissed. Oh, let me guess, Edgar here is the product of another pet, isn't he? I mean, you two do kind of look alike, but at least Edgar's mom had to have been somewhat pretty, because only that could explain his good looks. Unlike someone, I had to keep myself from laughing at what Saren was being. I mean, I felt like I was listening to myself as if I were back at Blood Moon and all the SHT I said to Nicole and Emma all the time. I guess even my clone doesn't have a filter. Saren, you are really testing my patience, Alessandro said, gritting his teeth by how it sounded. I would rather test your patience than test your non-existent DCK. I guess that's why none of my ancestors worked out. Your DCK is too small, and they would rather die than be caught up in a forced marriage with a vampire with no DCK. My mouth dropped at how vulgar she was being. I could sense then tension coming out of the hole in the wall I was hiding under. Egor. Shut her up. Alessandro commanded. Megan, now. I stood up from my SP0T and quickly shot a force towards Edgar that made him collide with Alessandro. I kicked the door open and went next to Saren. What? Diana. Sorry, wrong girl, I answer. Saren and I use our telepathy and threw every inanimate object in the room towards them. Even ones that were already broken from before. What is this? How do you have powers? Alessandro screams as he was trying to avoid everything. He was doing a lot better than poor Edgar, who had already been hit in the face several times with a vase and some books. Easy, I'm not Diana, I answer and lift him in the air along with Edgar. You have some explaining to do, Saren said to me. I ignore her so I don't get distracted. I throw both of them to the other side of the room, and they both collide with a wall, and both drop to the ground. Saren, the wood! I shout and point at the splintered pieces. She uses her powers to levitate them and turns the sharper ends towards them. She flings them as hard as she could, aiming for their hearts. No! Edgar shouts and gets up. He jumps in the way just in time to save Alessandro, but not himself. We watch as all of the splintered wood pieces hit him in the C.Hest and he turns to ash. S.H.T. I shout. Megan, what do we do? Megan. Alessandro repeats as he stands to his feet. Who are you? Saren and I start to step back as he inches towards us. That's when I notice something past him outside of the window. Even though it's still night time, I could see it clear as day thanks to the moonlight. I won't ask again, who are you? Alessandro hisses at me. She's with me, Saren answers, getting his attention. You must have a death wish, Megan, he says with so much evil in his voice. I don't care who you are, or how it is you have powers, because nothing will stop fate from taking its course. You're right about one thing, fate will take its course, but it won't be for you, I answer. He glares at me and he's about to say something when someone shimmered in, grabbing his attention. Saren, the tree! I shout. She uses her powers to break off all of the branches from the tree outside and hurled them towards Alessandro and his vampire. Unfortunately, she missed again and only got his goon. The next thing I knew, I'm being lifted into the air and thrown into the same wall I had thrown him into. The impact had my head spinning, but I knew that this wasn't going to be as easy as just staking him through the heart. That's when I realized that wasn't the answer. If staking him through the heart was the answer, then someone would have killed him a long time ago. What was I missing? Saren, it's because she's not really you. She's not us. We're supposed to kill him, not her. The chosen primordial. Callie said to me. I looked up at Alessandro, who had Saren by the throat. I knew what had to be done. I stood to my feet and had Callie take over. Imposter Saren's POV. After Megan was thrown into the wall, Alessandro grabbed me by the throat and lifted me in the air. Why wasn't I powerful enough to stop him? I couldn't understand, but then I heard her wolf speak to her. Saren, it's because she's not really you. She's not us. We're supposed to kill him, not her. The chosen primordial. Did her wolf just call her Saren? Did she just say that she's the chosen primordial? What the hell was going on? I was so caught up in what Megan's wolf said, that I couldn't even hear the nonsense that Alessandro was shouting at me. Megan stood to her feet and began to shift. I didn't know what she planned on doing, but I kept Alessandro's attention by struggling in his grasp. Just then, Megan's wolf let out a fierce growl that shook the room. I realized then that something wasn't right. Why couldn't I tap into my wolf? I don't even remember having a wolf now that I think about it. As I'm caught up in my own thoughts, Alessandro dropped me on the floor, and I coughed for air. I look up and see a baby blue wolf with silver eyes. I could see the confusion in Alessandro's eyes as well, as he looked at her. What is this? A light blue wolf, he said in shock. The next thing I knew, he went flying to the side into the wall where the head of the bed was. This force was so powerful even I felt it. I looked at Megan's wolf and realized the power came from her. How could she have powers in wolf form? Was she really another primordial? Did my master lie to me? Did Jasper know? I stood to my feet as she charged at him while he was barely getting up to his feet. She wasn't going to give him a second to recover. She grabbed him by his legs with her teeth and she spun in a circle and then threw him with the FLCK of her neck as he hit a space above the window, his head colliding with the ceiling. What are you? He screamed as he stood to his feet again. He was strong, but if Megan was a primordial like I think she is, then she may be even stronger. Was I not the chosen one? Was she the chosen one? I didn't understand anything that was happening, and I honestly wondered if I was okay with not being the important werewolf everyone made me out to be. Was my entire life a lie? Megan's wolf snarled at him, and she charged again, but this time, he shimmered away before she could get to him. She closed her eyes and lifted her snout into the air. She took a few whiffs, and then turned to the left, her mouth wide open, and sure enough, he reappeared in that very SP0T, and she chomped down on his HP, making him scream. She bit down even harder and then threw him out of the window. He shimmered again, and Megan did the same thing. She closed her eyes, lifted her snout, and then turned to face me. "Saren, duck!" I heard Megan's thoughts. I quickly ducked, and I heard something hit the wall really hard. I turned around and saw Alessandro inside of the wall. I got up and ran to where Megan's wolf was. Megan stalked towards Alessandro as he was trying to get back to his feet. Megan growled and snarled, and I could see her fur standing straight up along her spine. She swatted him with her paw out into the hallway and ran after him. She swatted him again and again and again. She slashed her claws at him a few times and then used her powers to throw him down the stairs. She leaped from the top floor and landed on the ground like some kind of cat. I ran down the stairs as fast as I could. I saw nothing but kale all over the floor. "Saren!" I heard my name. I turned to see Milan and the other 5 with her. Some of them looked injured. "Are you guys okay?" I asked. "We're good, just a few scratches. No bites," Milan answered. "Is that Megan?" one of the others asked. "What? I thought Saren's wolf was pink. When the hell did Callie become baby blue?" I heard Milan's thoughts. I looked at her in shock as she looked on towards the fight. Did she just call Megan Saren? "Give up," I heard Megan say. I look towards her and see that she's standing over a beat-up Alessandro. Suddenly, a group of 20 or so vampires appeared and they hissed at us. "What are you?" He spat and spit out some blood. The vampires paused and saw their leader. They were in too much shock to do anything. "What you've been wanting all this time," she answered. I squinted my eyes at what she said. "You were so blinded by your greed to make your prophecy come true, that you never realized the powers that be played you." "What?" "Alessandro, although it is true that had you successfully mated with the primordial, your heir would reign, you were too obsessed with that fact that you never thought about the fact that, that same primordial would also be the one to kill you. Saren isn't strong enough to kill me." "I'm not talking about that Saren," Megan said. "You." "That's right, me," she spat. "I'm the chosen primordial, I'm the real Saren in a magical cloak," she answered and shifted back into her wolf. Alessandro tried to shimmer, but he was too weak and didn't get very far. I used my powers and threw him back to Megan's wolf, who jumped and grabbed him by his throat and bit down as hard as she could. The sudden screams and shrieks of surviving vampires could be heard all throughout the house. Callie ripped out a chunk of his throat, and he fell to his knees. Black blood spilling out of the wound. We all watched as he shriveled up and slowly became nothing but a skeleton. All of the vampires in the immediate vicinity started to turn to ash. I looked back at Callie, as she shifted back into her human form. Milan grabbed a blanket off a nearby couch and covered her. She looked back at me and gave me the look. The look that said, "We need to talk." She walked up to me and let out a deep sigh. "I know you have a lot of questions, and that you're confused as hell. I promise that everything will be explained. But first, we need to get home, I nodded my head. Megan. We both turned to look at Milan. Where the hell are we? And how the hell do we get home? We all dropped our shoulders in realization. Let's find a computer to see if we can figure out where we are. Good thinking, Mia, Milan said. We all went looking for a computer, and we were lucky enough to find an open laptop in the kitchen that was already turned on. Us escaping must have interrupted them, one of the others said as she sat down. Jax, can you figure out where we are? Milan asked. 1sec, Jax worked her magic. I think we're going to need the Alpha to come to get us, Jax said. Why? Where are we? I asked. According to the GPS locator on this laptop, we're in Brasov, Romania. What? We all screamed. Call the Alpha via Skype, Milan ordered and Jax did. When Jasper answered, he was relieved to see all of us on the computer, and Jason was practically crying when he saw Milan. I always knew he was more sentimental than she was when it came to their bond. Jasper, what happened to Diana? Megan asked. She's holding on. What? She didn't turn to ash. She was about to, but Olivia and Svetlana are using magic to keep her from disintegrating, he said. Jasper, we're in Brasov, Romania, send the company jet. Milan shouted. Okay, I got you guys covered. The jet only has so much space, so I can't go get you, but I'll have the jet take off ASAP. Jasper, tell Olivia and Svetlana to keep Diana alive. Something tells me that I can help her, Megan says. Who is this Olivia and Svetlana they keep talking about? I looked at Jasper through the computer, and I could see the look of deceit written all over his face. There was so much more to this, and I had the feeling everything would come to light when we got home. Chapter 98. Jasper's POV. I knew that eventually, the truth would get out, and we would have to explain to the Saren clone what was going on, but low-key, I was hoping that all of this would just blow over and Svetlana could get rid of her without her ever finding out, but unfortunately, that's not the case here. I should know better than to wish for things to go the way I want them, but I'm a guy, that never works out. So, here I am, in my office with the Saren clone staring daggers at me. They've been back for a total of 5 minutes, and instead of me being able to be happy that they all returned practically unscathed, Saren walked past me and went straight to my office, and Megan went to the Pack Hospital with Olivia to try and see what she can do to save Diana from turning to dust. The tension in the castle was ridiculous, but according to Milan, the tension that was on the jet was even worse. Well, I'm waiting for an explanation. Saren shouted, breaking me from my train of thought. I'm on my own in this. I bit the inside of my cheek and was mentally kicking myself for ever having suggested Svetlana make a clone. I honestly don't know what to say, Saren. How about the truth? Okay, give me a starting point. Why do people think I'm a clone? Because you are, I answered honestly without hesitation. Her facial expression was to be expected. You were made from the real Saren's DNA, which is why you have her powers, or at least some of them. What do you mean by the real Saren? Megan. What? Megan is the real Saren Calloway, but in a magical disguise. You're lying, she said in disbelief. I wish I were, but I'm not. I had a dark witch create a clone of Saren, in this case, you, because I thought it was a good idea at the time. Say I believe you, and whatever bullshit this is, why? Why did you want a clone? Honestly, she nodded. I sat up straight and took a deep breath. I figured that if Alessandro ever came looking for Saren, he would find you instead, and take you." Her eyes widened in horror at my brutal honesty. "WWH what?" she exclaimed. "Are you telling me that I was supposed to be kind of sacrifice?" "For lack of a better term, yes," I answered, and she scoffed, tears forming in her eyes. Did I feel bad that my honesty was hurting her? Yes. Do I feel like a CK for coming up with this plan? Yes. Would I do it again? Probably. How am I supposed to believe you? You don't even have all of your memories of us. I came back and you still don't remember anything. Saren, that's not true. What? I've had my memories back for months now. I got them back before Megan, or I should say the real Saren, gave birth to Sam. She furrowed her brows at me. You were created months after she gave birth in her true form. Saren gave birth to Sam because she was pregnant when she left the pack. What are you saying, that Sam is the product of me and Saren Calloway, not Megan Campbell? No, 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 you're lying. I'm not a clone, she screamed and cried. Saren, have you noticed the fact that you don't have a wolf? I asked, and she stopped crying. That's because Callie, Saren's wolf, wasn't cloned, only the human counterpart was. That's why I came to the conclusion that even if had Alessandro taken you, he would have known you weren't real, and he would have come back for Megan, the real Saren. I don't know what plan Svetlana concocted with you, because I wanted to be kept in the dark, but that was my plan, and it obviously was the wrong one. As I was talking, she kept shaking her head and crying. I don't know a Svetlana, she shouted. Right, you don't. You probably know her as Stefan, she looked at me with wide eyes. Stefan is Svetlana in a magical disguise as well. Alessandro K. LLED her clone, so she has been hiding out as a man until he was K. LLED. Her creating a clone of herself is where I got the idea to create you, a clone of Saren. Stop. 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 You're lying. I'm sorry, I wish I was, but I'm not, and I can prove it. No. I don't believe you. Saren, I am sorry, but everything I've said is the truth, and no matter how much you deny it, you know deep down inside what I've said thus far is the truth. I know you know that things haven't been right with us, your relationship with everyone else, the fact that I have a son with someone who supposedly isn't my mate, you having no wolf, your memories only going back so far, and the fact that a small handful of pack members seem to be uncomfortable with you. She let out a small gasp at the final statement. It's because they know the truth. They've known the truth and have been putting on an act since day one. Since the day I brought Megan and Sam home, I could see her face falter as it seemed she finally believed everything I was saying. So everything I felt for you, everything you felt for me, was it all a lie? No, it wasn't. I do love you, clone or not, you're as much as Saren as the real Saren is, but the fact of the matter is, you're a clone, and you can't stay. What? Why? Because Megan has to go back to being Saren. Why can't she just stay Megan, and I can stay me? You can have both of us. As much as I would love that, believe me, I would, that wouldn't be fair to either one of you, especially you. You would never have all of me because I will always know that you're a clone. This is so unfair. Why do I have to suffer because of your choices? You're right, it is unfair, but life isn't fair. I don't know how far your memories go back, but if you know anything about being Saren, then you would know that she has had a hard life compared to most people out there. She lost her parents, her pack, her childhood, and at one point she even lost me. She lowered her head, and I could see the tears falling like a waterfall. I went up to her and hugged her. I'm sorry that my poor choices as an alpha are going to cost you pain, but I want you to know that even though you're a clone, I love you, and it's because you were made from the woman that I love with every fiber of my being. I wish there were another way, but there isn't. You can't stay, but I promise that everything you did while you were alive will always be remembered, by me, by Saren, and everyone in the pack. I mean everyone. She lifted her head and looked at me. I'm going to tell the entire pack the truth. Everything I've said to you here today will be reiterated to the entire pack. I may even be judged by the elders for what I did, but I don't regret it, not for a second. Why? Because creating you allowed Megan and me to realize that Saren is the true Luna of this pack. Not Megan. Even though I've marked her, as soon as she turns back into herself, into Saren, her original mark will come back with her. You will live on because you were the reminder that we needed. I regret that my choices are hurting you, because even though you're a clone, you're still a living being, and you are my dearest, Saren. But I promise, from the bottom of my heart, you will not be forgotten. Promise. I promise. Sscd away her tears and gave her a passion-filled K.S.S. The kind of K.S.S. that only a true mate can give to the woman he loves. Once things were settled, I called Svetlana into my office, and she performed whatever ritual she needed to. As much as I didn't want to watch it, I had to for Saren's sake. I was selfish one too many times in all of this, and I refused to be any more selfish by walking away when it was time to say goodbye to her. Megan's POV. After we got back to the pack house from Romania, my clone was upset to the point where she wanted to speak to Jasper alone, so I let her. I had more important issues to deal with, and that was trying to find a way to save Diana's life. I went straight to the pack hospital and found Olivia had some kind of magical shield around her keeping her from turning to ash, but it was only helping so much. I could see parts of Diana slowly fading away. But, what caught me off guard was the fact that Victor was in the hospital room with her. What the? Victor? What are you doing here? I asked as I came into the room. Megan, Victor is Diana's mate, Olivia said to me. What? I exclaimed looking back at Victor. He had been with us for almost a year and has done so much for the pack. Being human, he could only do so much, but he was a great fighter and helped out around the pack house even though he had moved into his cottage within the territory with his friends. I never thought in a million years that Victor would be mated to a vampire, let alone a vampire that looked like me. Megan, I'm trying really hard not to lose my mind right now, Victor said to me. What happened while we were gone? I asked. After we were told that we could come out of hiding, Kelsey, the others, and I went around seeing what we could help with, but that's when Diana here and I met. She immediately came onto me, and I freaked out because I thought she was you. Oh. Yeah, so imagine my surprise when tells me her name is Diana and that she's vampire. Victor, You don't have to apologize. I've lived amongst the supernatural long enough to know T happens for a reason and that things can easily be explained but not easily believed. I bit my bottom lip. Just please, tell me you can save her. I'm going to try, but I need you to leave the room, Victor. He nodded his head. He stood up, took one last look at Diana who just smiled at him. Please, I want to get to know her if I really am her mate. I want what everyone else has, he whispered to me as he walked out. I took a deep breath and closed my eyes. No pressure. After Victor left the hospital room, I turned back to face Diana. She had a small smile on her face, but it seemed that every time she moved even a little bit of her would fade away. I had to think quick, I had to find a way to save her. She was never supposed to be a part of this. She was merely in the wrong place at the wrong time, and now her life hangs in the balance. How do I save her? I asked William. I honestly don't know, he answered. I looked at him. Saren, why do you think you can save her? He asked me. I honestly have no idea. I just feel that I can. I mean, I'm the chosen one, aren't I? You said it yourself, I should have all of the powers that come with being a primordial, so wouldn't that include the power of bringing back someone from the dead? In theory, yes, but I don't even have that power, so I wouldn't know how to use it. I slumped my shoulders and looked back at Diana. How was I going to help her? Why did I believe that I could? Because we can, I can feel it. Callie? What are you saying? Saren, we have the power of resurrection. I can feel it, but this power cannot be used in vain. That's the same with all of our powers. No, this is different. This power can be taken away if used with greed. This power is one that no one else will ever have. Not even Sam. I thought about what Callie said and that hit hard. Knowing that one of our powers could be taken from us if it were ever misused. Hopefully saving an innocent person like Diana wouldn't be considered a misuse of power. Callie, we have to save her. She's innocent in all of this. I agree with you. How do we do it? Turn her. What? Callie, we can't turn another supernatural, even I know that. She'll die. But we're not an ordinary werewolf, remember. We're special. I gulped at what she said and stared at Diana with wide eyes. I've never once considered turning her. Could injecting her with werewolf venom really be the key? Do it, before it's too late, Saren. I took a deep breath and let it out to calm my nerves. If there was one being in this world that I trust more than Jasper, it was my wolf. Callie has been there for me since the day I turned 18, and she never once left me. Even with everything that happened within the last year of our lives, Callie has been my best friend and is more than just my wolf. She's my family. Olivia, let me pass through the shield, I tell her. She creates an opening, and I walk through it. Drop my cloak, I need to do this as Saren, Diana gave me. A weird look and Olivia dropped my disguise. Diana's eyes widened in shock. That's right, Diana, I'm the real Saren. I'm the primordial that Alessandro was after. That's why I told you I wasn't the person you thought I was when I was Megan. It was a magical disguise, and the Saren you saw the other day was a magical clone created by the Dark Witch Svetlana. Wow, and I thought my turning into dust was some crazy SHT, she replied. Diana, I can save your life, but it comes with a price. What price? You'll see, but I think it's for the best, and I'm certain that you will still be mates with Victor. She smiled and nodded slightly, and another small bit of her turned to ash. Saren, do you know what you're doing? William asked. No, but it's all I've got, I answer. I gently push away Diana's hair and lean down to her neck. Diana, this may hurt, but I promise, I'm trying to save you, she nodded, and before any more of her faded, I quick bit down as hard I as could and prayed to the moon goddess and the powers that be that this was the answer to saving her life, and giving Victor a second chance at love. Chapter 99. Jasper's POV. 1 year later. Samson Valencia. Get back here. I hear an angelic voice roar down the hallway. I peek my head out from my office and see that Sam is running around and ached for the 100th time this week. Sam runs straight to me as I open the door and I catch him in my arms as he squeals in delight. "Daddy, Mommy mad," he says in his broken baby words. "Well, son, it appears that Mommy is mad because you're running around buck and ached, again," I tell him, and he laughs even more. I take him back to our room where I know Saren was getting ready to give him a bath so we could get ready for the party. "Ugh, why does he take after you?" Saren shouts as I bring Sam back to her. "He's my son, dearest, of course, he takes after me. I don't just mean him wanting to be ached all the time. Everything about him is you. Are we sure he's a primordial?" "I'm not sure about anything, Saren. William is the one who says that he's like you in that aspect of life," I reply and place Sam into the bathtub. "Do you want me to help you?" "No, I can do it. He's fine once he's in the tub and I play with the water for him. It's getting him in the tub that's always hard. It's like this kid lives to make me scream at him." "He's a boy, it's what boys do," I answer. "Why couldn't I have a girl like Melody and Kelsey? Hell, even Natalie and Lisa had girls. Only Michelle and I have had boys." "Well, we find out what Milan is having in about an hour, so we'll see." I can't believe Milan finally decided to have a pup. Jason told me she said something along lines of, "If I have to see one more of my friends get pregnant, my ovaries are going to explode," I said, and she laughed. She made aquatic animals with the water and had them circle Sam in the tub while he played. I left her to do her thing and went back to my office to do some last-minute work-related stuff before Jason and Milan's gender reveal party. As I working, there was a knock on my door. "Come in," I called out without lifting my head. "Alpha." I looked up and saw Victor. "Victor, come on in, how's the transition going for you?" "It's strange honestly, I mean, I never thought in a million years I could be a werewolf." "It suits you," I tell him. "You'll get used to it, and I'm sure Diana was excited to know you had survived." "She sure was, after all, she's the one who turned me." "I think she was more excited she didn't lol me." "Well, she has the power of Saren's werewolf in here, so her genes are going to be as powerful as an alpha's with slight limitations. Remember, I told you that if you were meant to be one of us, you're meant to be one of us. All of you newborns that were once human were taken for a reason and survived for a reason. Regardless if Diana started as a vampire, she was meant to be a werewolf, which is why Saren was able to save her that day. I wonder if Saren turning into Diana's twin was some sort of weird twist of fate. It was, I say flat out. T happens in our world for a reason, regardless of what that reason is," Victor nodded. "You good?" "Yeah, I'm good, it's just weird. I mean, Diana and I both went to check out my family to see how they were doing. And they're going good. My older cousin is getting married, and my parents are excited to go to the wedding. They keep a memorial for me in the living room, and a part of me just wants to burst through the door and tell them I'm good, but you don't want to disrupt the newly found peace that they have. Right? Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful for these last 2 years. You all saved my life, and in doing so, I got a mate of my own. How did you feel when you found out she was older than you?" "I didn't care honestly, it's only by 1 year, and I don't feel it. I'm 6 inches taller than her, and now that I'm one of you now, she weighs like nothing." "Ha ha ha, yeah, having werewolf strength has its many perks," I tell him and chuckle. "Can I ask you a question?" "Of course." How do you know you when you're in love with your mate? I smirked at his question. I knew I was in love with Saren the moment I laid eyes on her when she was 10. That sounds creepy, but in our world, it's normal. But if I had to give you the Dr. Phil answer, I would tell you that you know when all you can think about is your mate. She's the first thing you want to see when you wake up, and the last thing you want to see when you go to bed. She's on your mind 24/7, and the only thing you care about in this world is her happiness and her well-being. When it comes to the woman you're in love with, you know it when everything you do in life revolves around her. Victor let out a deep breath and nodded his head. Do our kind get married? We do, but not in the traditional sense. We can have weddings and do it the human way, or we just have an elder perform a ritual. I see. Why? You planning on proposing? I asked him and lifted a brow. What? No. I mean, Diana keeps bringing up marriage and kids, and I wasn't sure how it worked with, you know, being a werewolf and all that, he defended. I smirked again and laughed at him. He and I stayed in my office a little bit longer and then got ready to head down to the gender reveal party for Jason and Milan. Saren and Sam were already dressed by the time I got back to our room. I quickly changed into my shirt that Milan is forcing to wear that says, Big Bad Uncle Wolf, and Saren was wearing her shirt that says, Fairy Godmother. I take Sam from her and we both head down to the party that's just about to get started. There are games everywhere outside. Sam is running around with Leanne and Nikolai, and the younger pups are in the playpen just crawling around. Mr. and Mrs. Williams made a whole array of foods and desserts, and Jason's and Milan's parents are running around making sure everyone is comfortable and getting plenty to eat. Saren was with all of the girls, while I was with all of the guys, and our parents were making sure the pups didn't get stepped on or run away from the party. All right, everyone. It's time for the big reveal. Saren eventually shouted from the crowd. Everyone quieted down, and Melody brought out a carton of eggs. Okay, you two, this is how it's going to go. All but one of these eggs are hard-boiled. The one that isn't is the gender of your pup, so get crackin'. One by one, Jason and Milan took turns cracking an egg on each other's head, and by the end of it all, they both had one egg each. One pink and one blue. Oh my god, if they end up with a girl, I'm going to cry with jealousy, Saren whispered to me. I smiled and shook my head. Ready, babe? Jason asked Milan. Ready, she replied. On the count of 3, we do it to each other, yes? Jason asked and Milan nodded. 1, 2, 3, they smashed the eggs on each other's head and both splattered. The crowd gasped and everyone was confused. Did you up? I asked Melody. No, but Dr. Andrews did, Melody replied. Jason and Milan looked at her when she said that. They looked over at Dr. Andrews, who had a guilty look on his face. Oh my god! It's twins! Milan's mom shouted. She and Aunt Zoe screamed for joy and started to jump and down. Jason and Milan looked at each other in shock. Angelo and Michelle went up to them. I guess if one of us had to continue the tradition, it had to be you, Angelo said to Milan, who was still speechless. I looked down at Saren, who didn't seem all that upset. Not jealous. I teased her. Why would I be jealous? She's having 2 at once. She's got double the trouble coming her way. No mom would be jealous of that. And if they're anything like her, Jason, or Angelo, who, I don't think she will let Jason anywhere near her after this, I couldn't help but laugh at her reasoning. We both went up to congratulate them once they came out of their delirium. Saren's POV. I stood back for a minute and looked around me. Everyone near and dear to my heart was happy. After I had successfully saved Diana's life, she and Victor wasted no time in accepting each other. Even though Victor was afraid to turn, he finally gave in when he realized that he wouldn't be able to mark Diana without doing so. Let's say possessiveness is not only in werewolves. Things honestly couldn't be better, because I don't know how much more perfect things can get from here on out. Though, I honestly can't help but be afraid of the fact that we have no idea what happened with Blood Moon. After Kale and his pack were taken into custody by the elders, that was the last we had heard of them. Even Alpha Richard and Ronan couldn't find out what had happened, and it honestly worried a lot of us. Jasper doesn't think anything of it, or at least that's what he wants me to think. William and Olivia decided to take their leave and travel the world and catch up on several hundred years of lost time. William finally decided to mark her and make her his mate like she was always meant to be. When they come back, they will live in the castle with us and become pack members. Mostly because William wants to train Sam, and I want him to as well. We don't tell anyone who he really is, and we just let everyone else call him Lorenzo Rossi. Only Jasper and I call him William behind closed doors. When I think back to how much my life changed 10 years ago, I never thought that I would be blessed the way that I have been. I always thought that life was unfair after losing everything, but in the end, I realized when you lose something, you gain something much better in return. I may have lost my family, my pack, and my childhood, but I gained something so much better in return. I have a mate who loves me unconditionally, we have a son that has changed our entire universe for the better, and I gained an even bigger family and pack than the one that I had lost. I live each day one moment at a time and never take for granted everything that I have been blessed with. I looked up to the sky and thanked my parents for saving my life that fateful night. My promise to never give up and to keep on fighting was fulfilled. I fought for the life that I have now, and I will forever fight to keep it. No matter what happens from here on out, I will forever be Saren Calloway, no longer the daughter of the Alpha of Iron Hollow, but now the Luna of Blue Lake. The end. Join our Facebook and WhatsApp group for more updates, link is given in description. Rest audiobook will be continued in next episode.